origin of life. How on earth did life begin? That's quite literally the question, because at some point life started on Earth. But we're still trying to work out what happened, because it presents a lot of problems. A lot of people have said the probabilities are just so astronomical. It's very hard to see some kind of naturalistic explanation. But Lee Cronin, who joins me on the programme today, says no. Understand the chemistry, that's the key, and he's doing the experiments which he says are going to win the Evolution 2.0 $10 million prize that Perry Marshall and Denis Noble have come in to talk about today. Denis, you've obviously been working on this yourself on the sidelines to some extent. What's going on? We've heard lots of different words here. Teleology, which essentially means a sort of purposive process.
Indeed, yes.
Agency, which means
same
that there's
thing.
same sort of idea. Information, and of course all the chemical processes as well. So can you frame this in a way that is perhaps helpful for the listener as to what you think is at the centre of this enigma that is the origin of life?
Well, I think I'm going to do that by first using the title of your programme, which I believe is unbelievable.
That's correct.
Now I'm going to make a very unbelievable statement. Okay. At least I think it will be unbelievable both to neo-Darwinists and to most of your listeners. And that is, the very existence of DNA requires teleology first.
Okay.
Now, that may seem very strange because many of those who believe the idea that DNA is the center of life, it's what directs the whole process of producing the organism, which is, I'm afraid, untrue. It's actually a complete cell that is the beginning of life. But let's leave that to one side for a moment. What I mean by DNA requires teleology first, it's an incredible process, the way in which cells handle our DNA. When the DNA is copied to be contributing to two cells and the cell dividing, which is an essential part of the development of the organism, then what you find is that the natural error rate in that copying is very high. It's 1 in 10,000 of those ping pong balls I forgot his name. Lee. Yes. A very simple name, and I forget it. Anyway, it's one of those ping pong balls, you see. And but imagine 10,000 of them, and you get an error. Now, it may seem very rare, but
that's
we've
actually
got
quite
3
high.
billion ping pong balls.
So that's
now,
quite a lot of errors.
That is over 100,000 errors. No organism would be able to survive that. What does it do? The cell comes along and it corrects those errors. And from 1 in 10,000, you get 1 in 10 billion.
Wow. Which is quite a low rate.
It's extremely good because most genomes are therefore copied completely faithfully. Now, why do I say that requires teleology first? The cell is a teleological structure. It knows, and I use that word advisedly, it knows how to copy itself. That's what Lee is trying to do in creating the chemical conditions.
But he's taking it back a step to the inorganic point.
Indeed so, and I respect that, and I like that, but I'm just establishing first that it cannot be the case that DNA, as we know it today, was there at the beginning. First of all, it's inert. It needs activating by the rest of the system to do anything at all. Second, it has this terrible error rate, which our cells correct all the time.
So you need the cell for the DNA to be worth
Absolutely
doing
so. That's why I
with.
say the DNA requires teleology first.
And in that sense, if teleology is there to start with, it's almost like, now, as you say, the neo-Darwinists will say you're putting the cart before the horse.
Exactly so. Yes, they do.
Because you're introducing something that seems a little bit mystical, almost, at the outset.
Well, I don't think teleology is mystical.
Okay,
but Lee,
why then?
He was saying that earlier on.
You're shaking your head at that, Lee. So go ahead.
So I mean, actually, I don't think Denis's statement is unbelievable at all. In fact, it's entirely amenable to what we're trying to do in the lab. The thing is, this is where and I think I really share Perry's frustration looking at the origin of life, reading those books. Everyone's trying to make a soup that magically comes up with DNA, RNA, or assembled proteins. It isn't going to happen because there's an information catastrophe. And Perry's alluded to a paper that I've written that talks about a threshold where we're looking for living systems. But what that paper is allowing us to do is make a life emergence detector.